Well now, folks, pull up a chair. Let me tell you something that's been rattling around in my head for a good many years. We're going to talk about a man who's been turned into such a legend that most people can't even see the real human being behind all the stories anymore.
Chapter 1. The Duel with the Reflection. The Enemy You Don't Have to Hunt For.
Miyamoto Musashi. Yeah, I can see your faces. The name alone makes you picture that fierce warrior with two swords strapped across his back, eyes sharp as an eagle, cutting down every opponent in his path. A walking storm, some kind of medieval superhero who lived for victory and left a trail of bodies behind him. That's the version Hollywood sells. That's the comic book cover, the movie poster. Strong, brutal, simple. But let me lean in here as someone who's wrestled with Musashi's words for half a lifetime. Underneath all that myth, it's mostly wrapping paper. Shiny, impressive, sure, but not the candy inside. And if you're willing to unwrap it with me, you might be surprised, maybe even disappointed if you came here for easy slogans or blood-soaked glory. Because what's inside isn't about defeating others at all. It's about defeating yourself. Yep. You heard me right. Musashi's greatest enemy wasn't some rival samurai. It wasn't the strongest swordsman in Kyoto or the warlord with the deepest pockets. Now, his real opponent stared back at him every morning when he caught his reflection in the water. That was the bastard he had to deal with day in and day out. And let me tell you, that's the nastiest enemy any of us will ever face. Why? Because he knows all your weak spots. He remembers every screw-up you've ever made and loves to remind you when you're already feeling low. He whispers excuses in your ear. Start tomorrow. You're not good enough. One more won't hurt. Scroll a little longer. Work can wait. Ring a bell? Now, sure, Musashi had real duels. He crossed swords with men who'd trained their whole lives. But most of us aren't battling in dojos or on dusty roads. Our enemies wear different faces. They're the bad habits that eat away at our health, the procrastination that chains us to the couch while life passes by, the addictions that numb us one moment and gut us the next, the identity crises that leave us staring at the ceiling at night wondering who the hell we even are. And here's the kicker. Musashi would grin at all that. From across the centuries, he'd nod and say, "Yep, I know that fight. I had it too." His Book of 5 Rings? Don't mistake it for a fencing manual. Sure, it talks swords, but beneath the steel, it's really a guide for hacking into your own operating system, a manual for dealing with your flaws, your fears, your laziness. He teaches us to treat those flaws like opponents, study them, learn their tricks, anticipate their moves, and when the moment's right, use their energy against them. That's strategy. That's the way. See, victory, at least the kind Musashi's talking about, isn't about a guy lying dead at your feet. No, it's the small, quiet wins nobody sees. It's when you wanted to stay in bed, but you got up and did the damn push-ups anyway. It's when your hand reached for that cigarette, but you clenched your fist and let the craving pass. It's when the anger bubbled in your chest and you wanted to shout to blame the world, but instead you took a deep breath, kept your cool, and rode out the storm. That right there, that's the kind of victory Musashi respected. The kind that doesn't make headlines, doesn't get you a medal, but reshapes you from the inside out. You don't change the world by crushing others. You change it by mastering yourself, and then the world around you starts to shift almost by accident. That's the lesson of this first chapter, plain and simple. Your biggest duel isn't out there in the streets. It's happening in your own head. And Musashi, this wandering, half-wild swordsman from 17th century Japan, he doesn't hand you a sword. He hands you a mirror, and with a sly little grin, he asks, "So, ready to meet your real opponent?" The rest of this road we're walking together, we'll keep using Musashi's sharp mind like a blade, cutting into the tough spots. The procrastination that steals our years, the addictions that chain us, and the despair that gnaws holes in our sense of self. We're going to learn how to think like strategists of our own lives, how to stop being pawns of habit and start being masters of ourselves. But that's all down the road. For now, do me one favor tonight. Walk to the mirror, look yourself in the eye, and understand the duel has already started.
Chapter 2. The Path of Direct Action, or Why the Sword is Sharper Than Tomorrow.
All right, my friends, let's get real. Last time we looked in the mirror and met our biggest enemy, ourselves. And I hope it didn't scare you too much. But today, we're going to give that slippery son of a gun a name, one of his slickest disguises. Ready? It's called procrastination. Now, doesn't that sound fancy? Rolls right off the tongue. Procrastination. Almost respectable, like you could put it on a business card. Makes plain old laziness sound like it went to college. Instead of saying, I'm lying on the couch doing nothing, we say, I'm procrastinating. Feels smarter, doesn't it? Almost noble. But let's not kid ourselves. Procrastination ain't noble. It's a sticky fog that creeps into your mind and ties your hands behind your back. It's a swamp monster named later that eats your most valuable treasure, your now. And that monster's clever. He doesn't show up swinging. No, he whispers. He tempts you with 1,000 little distractions. Check your phone. Make another cup of coffee. Watch just one more video. And while you're busy with all that, the one thing that actually matters, it's still sitting there, waiting. And you're losing ground. And us modern folks, what do? We download apps. We draw color-coded charts. We buy productivity books, listen to podcasts, take seminars. We'll do everything in the world to fight procrastination, except actually start doing the damn thing. We procrastinate on fighting procrastination. Tell me that's not ironic. Now I'll tell you what Musashi would have said if he were standing here watching us spin our wheels. He'd probably laugh, shake his head, and tap the 2 swords on his hip. Then he'd say something like, too much thinking, too much noise. The way of the sword is the way of direct action. See, for Musashi, a duel didn't start with a drum or a bell. It started the moment you decided. That's it, the choice. Everything before was just prep. Everything after was just consequence. The fight itself was a single decisive strike, one moment. No later. In battle, later means never, and later usually means dead. So here's the lesson. Treat your procrastination like an enemy on the battlefield. That task you keep putting off, that's your opponent. And every time you say, I'll start in 5 minutes, you're handing him the initiative. You're letting him poke you, score a point, steal ground. Musashi's whole philosophy was about seizing the moment. His teaching is simple. The present moment is all you've got. That means the only way to beat the monster called later is to strike now. Don't think about the whole mountain of work in front of you. That's like stepping into a duel and worrying about how you'll celebrate your victory or whether folks will cry at your funeral. Useless thoughts, distractions. No. What you do is focus on one clean strike. Just one. Gotta write a 20-page report? Forget 20 pages. Your only job is to open the document and type one sentence. That's it. That's your sword cut. Clean, sharp, decisive. Once you do that, the battle shifts. You're no longer the victim sitting on the sidelines. You're the warrior stepping into the fight. Musashi wrote about something he called the void. Now, to us Westerners, that sounds like nothingness, like a black hole. But in his world, it meant possibility. It meant clearing away the junk so the real thing could show up. A mind without clutter. No fear, no excuses, no daydreams, just presence. And boy, if you ever sat there staring at a big task you can't bring yourself to start, you know your mind ain't empty. It's jammed full. What if I screw up? This is so boring. I don't have the energy. Maybe tomorrow. That's not the void, that's garbage. Musashi's strategy was to toss that trash out and look at the task the way a warrior looks at his enemy. No hate, no fear, no pity. Just an obstacle. Just an opponent. And there's only one thing to do with an opponent: act. The war against procrastination isn't won by a long siege. It's won by a single decisive strike. So stop polishing your sword, stop drawing diagrams, stop psyching yourself up. Swing. Open the file. Lace up your shoes. Make the call. Land the first blow. And you'll see how the fog begins to lift. And let me tell you a secret. Once you've done it a few times, you realize something. Discipline is just procrastination that got flipped on its head. One choice, one moment, over and over. That's all habit really is. So here's my advice, same as old Musashi's. Stop waiting for the perfect time, the perfect mood, the perfect plan. That's just the monster whispering in your ear. Strike now. The sword is always sharper than tomorrow.
Chapter 3. The Art of Cutting a New Path. So we've already sent our old pal procrastination packing with one clean strike in the now. Felt good, didn't it? But don't get too comfortable, because procrastination, that slippery little devil, has a big brother. And this one's meaner, stronger, and a whole lot harder to shake off. His name? Habit. Now, habit isn't some lazy slouch lying around like procrastination. No, sir. Habit is a warlord. It's procrastination that sat on the throne long enough to pass laws, build walls, and hire itself an army. Habit isn't just a momentary "I'll do it later." It's that automatic pilot that steers you straight into the swamp, even when you swore you'd head for higher ground. Picture it like this. Inside you, there's a forest. Procrastination is like fog rolling through. Annoying, disorienting, but it can be burned off with a strong enough fire. Habit, though, habit is a wide, well-trampled trail that you've walked so many times your feet don't even ask for directions anymore. It's smooth, familiar, easy, and 9 times out of 10, that trail runs straight into the mud. Meanwhile, the real path, the one that leads to fresh water, to something better, looks more like a deer track hidden under thorns. Getting there takes hacking through brush, scratching yourself on branches, maybe getting lost once or twice. No wonder most folks keep marching down the old familiar road. Not because they're dumb, not because they're evil, just because it's easier. Take a hard look at your own life. That smoke you light up after coffee? That phone you grab the second boredom creeps in? That slice of cake at midnight you deserve? Those didn't just show up out of nowhere. You built those trails, step by step, year after year. Every repeat of that choice packed the dirt a little tighter, until it turned into a highway. Now the whole thing runs without you even thinking. Habit offers you fast food comfort, cheap warmth, sugar-coated poison that makes life feel better for about 30 seconds. And what would old Musashi say about that? You think he'd wag a finger and call you weak? Not a chance. The man wasn't a preacher, he was a fighter. He wouldn't say you're weak, he'd just say your strategy stinks. You're trying to block a river with a stick. You're trying to stand in front of an avalanche and push it back. It doesn't work that way. Musashi's first lesson was never about swinging the sword, it was about watching, studying, understanding how your opponent moves before you even raise your blade. Same thing here. You can't beat a habit you don't even notice. So your first weapon is awareness. Drop the guilt, drop the self-loathing, and pick up an imaginary notebook instead. Write it down. Bored? My hand went for the phone. Stressed? I reached for a smoke. Don't judge it, just record it. Bring it into the light, because any monster dragged out of the dark and into daylight loses half its teeth right there. The second weapon, detachment. Musashi, in his Dokodo, his lonely way of life, said, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake." That's a heavy line, but here's the deal. Every bad habit whispers the same promise. Hey, you'll feel good, right now. No cost, no sweat. Musashi calls that bluff. He says, that's bait, don't bite. Real joy, the kind that makes a man stand tall, doesn't come from scratching every itch. It comes from the quiet pride of knowing you didn't let the itch own you. The moment the craving hits, whether it's nicotine, sugar, or just the itch to scroll another hour away. Don't wrestle it. That only makes it stronger. Step aside. Let it pass like a wave. Acknowledge it, nod at it. Yeah, I see you. I know your game, but I choose me, not you. That's detachment. Not anger, not hatred, just choosing not to dance when the old tune starts playing. And here's the third move, the real clincher. You can't just bulldoze the old trail and call it a day. Leave empty space and weeds grow back faster than you can blink. You gotta carve a new trail, build a new kata. In martial arts, a kata is just a set sequence of movements practiced until it's second nature. Well, your bad habit is its own kata, the kata of self-sabotage. The trick is to write yourself a new one. So, say you feel that smoke craving. Instead of lighting up, you take one deep breath, drink a glass of water, do 3 squats. That's your new kata. Bored? Instead of reaching for the phone, pick up that book you left on the table and read just one paragraph. That's all, just one. At first, it'll feel awkward, clunky, forced. Your body will scream for the old route. But Musashi reminds us, the path becomes yours only through repetition. Do it 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. One day you'll realize your feet walked the new path without you even deciding. And the air by that spring? Damn, it's fresher. The water's colder, cleaner, better. So, my friends, fighting habit isn't some Hollywood showdown. It's an art. The art of noticing, the art of letting go, and the art of building something new with patience. It's not a sprint. It's a long hike through the woods. But every step on that new trail is a small victory, not over cigarettes or phones or cake, but over chaos inside you. And if you're thinking, well, what if it's not just one bad trail? What if my whole forest feels like it's burning down? Hold that thought, because that's the next battle, and it's the toughest one of all.
Chapter 4. Rising from the Ashes, Navigating a Personal Crisis. So here we are, folks. We've come to the heart of the storm, the darkest part of the forest. We've talked about slaying procrastination. We've talked about cutting new trails, fighting habits that drag us down. But what do you do when the whole damn forest catches fire? When the trails are gone, the compass is busted, the maps turn to ash? What do you do when life doesn't just throw a bad day at you, but tears the floor out from under you? That's what a personal crisis feels like. And let me tell you, it's not the same thing as just having a rough patch. A real crisis is when meaning itself burns away. When that job you thought mattered suddenly feels like cardboard scenery. When the relationship you leaned on crumbles into dust. When you look in the mirror and don't even recognize that tired face staring back. It's when your ship's been blown apart in a storm and you're left clinging to a splintered mast in the middle of the roaring sea. And what do we usually do in that moment? We flail, we panic, we curse the storm, the sky, the gods, whatever's handy. We try to glue together the wreckage and rebuild the same old boat we just lost. We waste all our energy screaming at reality. But I can picture Musashi standing on the shore, arms crossed, just watching us thrash around. And I'll tell you what, he wouldn't waste breath scolding. He'd simply state the obvious. The ship sank. The water's wet. You're in the ocean. Sounds cold, doesn't it? But that's his first and greatest lesson here. Accept reality exactly as it is. Now don't confuse that with giving up. It's not about lying down and drowning. It's about stopping the useless fight with the facts. Stop yelling at the storm. It doesn't care. Accept where you are. Accept what's gone. Accept the new battlefield. That's the ground you're standing on now. You don't start a fight wishing for a different arena. You fight where you're planted. And that's where Musashi throws us a lifeline. One of his sharpest truths was this: think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Let that sink in. In the middle of crisis, our brains love to get stuck on repeat. Me, my pain, my loss, my tragedy. And sure, the pain is real. I'm not saying it's not. But you know what? Half the drowning isn't the storm. It's us choking on our own self-pity.
We stare at the womb so long we forget there's a sky above us. Musashi's advice is a hard pivot. Zoom out, look up, see the stars, see the waves rolling on bigger than your little raft. Think about the world, about history, about eternity. Your pain is still there, but it's no longer the center of the damn universe. And suddenly, breathing gets easier. Perspective is oxygen. Now, let's tackle the toughest question. What the hell do I do next? When the old goals are rubble, when the horizon's blank, where do I steer? Here's Musashi again, whispering through the centuries. Make the way your goal. Translation: when you don't know the destination, the only thing that matters is how you take the next step. Keep your raft afloat, keep your body warm, keep moving. In crisis terms, you may not know what your new life will look like, but you can damn sure make your bed in the morning. You can step outside and breathe deep. You can pick up a book and read a single page. You can reach out to someone you care about. These aren't steps towards something, they are the something. This is your new practice, your new kata, small acts of discipline that keep your soul from collapsing while the storm rages on. And here's the final twist, the one most folks miss. Crisis isn't defeat, not to a warrior. Crisis is the purest fight there is. It's the fire that burns away all the garbage, all the fake masks you wore, all the lies you told yourself, all the shallow comforts you clung to. If you can stand in that fire without breaking, you don't just survive, you come out forged, stronger, clearer, simpler. You don't beat the storm, you beat the scared version of yourself that was living before the storm. And that's the victory that matters. So here's where I'll leave you, at least for now. If you carry just one thought from this old man rambling in your ear, let it be this. The sharpest sword you'll ever hold isn't meant for cutting down others. The katana of your mind, your will, your spirit, it's meant for carving away at yourself, cutting off fear, trimming back laziness, slicing through the illusions you cling to. Every day, every hour, that's the way. Our talk isn't really over, it's just beginning. If you feel at home here, me, you, and Musashi's ghost, then you know the deal. Stick around, walk the path, and above all, keep that mirror handy. Look at it without fear. That's where the real fight begins.